Sean here with the Big Brown Guy channel, and today we're going to be doing a more in-depth review of the Ruger SR 1911. So as we can see here, the system is cleared, nothing's racking out of there, and there's nothing inside the chamber itself. So the Ruger SR 1911 is definitely the sweet spot, best buy 1911 for getting into it. I feel like at the price that this weapon is offered at, nothing else really comes close. So the cool thing about it, you get a Series 70 gun. You get all the different features that you would want, such as the extended safety, extended mag release, the beaver tail, some nice Coca-Cola wood grips, and the Series 70 trigger. So the next weapon that I was looking at was actually the Remington R1, and I did like that one. It was high quality. It was a stock GI version. But then I realized what I was going to do was I was going to put a beaver tail on there, and that cost, it cost some money, and it actually does take some fitting to do. So I figure, why not get a weapon that already has the beaver tail on there? The reason why the beaver tail is so important is the fact that you can get a much higher grip on the weapon itself. And the higher you can get your grip, the lower the bore axis is, which means that the weapon wants to recoil straight back instead of straight up. So that's much, much better. Also, this memory hump is really sweet right here. It has a much looser spring on there, so if you had a weaker grip, like you can see right there in my hand, it'll still fire the weapon, okay, because of that memory hump. So that's just super rad. The Ruger also comes with the 3-dot Novec sights that you guys have definitely seen. They're nothing like out of the ordinary or extraordinary, but they're definitely just probably the great place to start. You're not able to rack the slide on your belt or whatnot, but don't kid yourself, you can still rack the slide on the ejection port right here on your belt. So don't let that be the determining factor of what sights come on there, because the Novec 3-dots are good. It has the Allen head key screw slots on here, and I'm not necessarily a huge fan of those because they have gotten loose after I shot about 1,000 rounds through this weapon. And the reason why the flatheads are so cool is because you can use the rim of a case to tighten them down, because I don't have an Allen key on me when I go out shooting. So the flatheads would definitely be better in my opinion. The trigger pull on the Ruger SR 1911 is very crisp. Okay, you got take up, bang. Again, take up, bang. And you can see the reset here. So very, very good. Now I have gone through and I have touched up my hammer hooks, just very, very, very slightly. You really don't want to mess with the hammer hooks or the sear. But I figure since it seemed like the geometry was built into the hammer hooks, I'd give it a slight pass with a ceramic stone, and it has worked in my favor. It's definitely taken out any minuscule amount of creep that the trigger did have. But the trigger from the factory is very, very good. So I don't think you need to do any modification on that. You could definitely probably lighten the trigger or put in a trigger that has an adjustable take-up. And so an adjustable take-up trigger, you could have it seat further back there without the slack take-up. You do have an over-travel adjustment, and what that does is the over-travel adjustment allows, so once the trigger is depressed, it would take up the slack from pulling further back once the trigger has actually been fired. But I don't think the over-travel is that big of a deal. I'm still able to get some great shots with this awesome crisp trigger pull. So let's go ahead and take this weapon down some and show you guys basically how this thing is put together. Now before we go ahead and take it down, you can see the barrel legs have some play, as well as this right here. Listen. That's right, it is a rattly gun, okay? There is definitely some play to it. Now in this price range, you're just going to have to probably expect that. From what I've read, in order to get very, very tight guns that function very well, you're going to have to spend some money. So I don't really fault Ruger for that. I figure it's just what it is. But it has been shooting pretty decent. I have lost some accuracy recently, and I feel like that probably was due to some copper buildup in the bore that I've taken care of. I put some Barnes CR10 in there. It's definitely cleaned out the copper. So now that we see that, we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and take it down further. You can see I don't even need a bushing wrench. The bushing is also fairly loose as well. We'll take the plug out. Let's go ahead and take this slide back, pull this out, and we'll go ahead and remove our barrel. And so here's what I was talking about with the bushing. You can see we've got some definite play there. So if you're looking for a match gun or a super mad accuracy gun, probably the Ruger is not going to be there, unfortunately. But it is what it is. It's a great gun at a price point. As far as the throating of the barrel, you can see right there, man, it's got a good throating job. And all I've had to do was touch it up with some flits. So, and that's how it matches up here with the feed ramp. Feed ramp I also touched up with some flits. So yeah, this thing is definitely good to go. I haven't fed any hollow point ammunition through this weapon because I've just been buying more and more of the full metal jacket because I want to get as much trigger time as possible. And there you can see it. We definitely do not have the firing pin safety block on there. This is totally a Series 70, which is awesome. And how Ruger's been able to get around that is they put a titanium firing pin inside here, which I'll go ahead and I'll show you guys. So we have the titanium firing pin and a heavier firing pin spring. There we go. Keep my finger there so it doesn't launch off. And there we have it. Here is our firing pin. You can see right there, full titanium. Very cool, huh? And so they have a heavier firing pin spring so that if the weapon were to drop on its muzzle, it wouldn't go off like the older Series 70s. Of course, I think it was just a lawyer issue more than an actual safety concern. So there is that. As far as the extractor on here, the extractor is good. And how you can check the extractor is by, you could take a casing and put that in there and see how well it'll hold that casing, okay? So you get good geometry on there. And I feel like out of the box, maybe the tension was maybe just a little too strong. I was getting some slight erratic ejection patterns. Some of them were kind of coming back in my face or going out over there. But that seemed to chill out after about 25 rounds. And so definitely get a good extractor on here. There's no need to upgrade or anything like that. Let's go ahead and check it out. You guys can see the geometry there on there. And it's definitely breaking in good. It's definitely breaking in to get that great geometry. You can see it's shiny on the spots where it's getting the wear. And so it's good. It's good. No need to adjust, and in the future, we'll definitely adjust accordingly. So go ahead and put that back. Make sure that's nice and flush and at the proper depths so that we can get our firing pin back in there. One upgrade I have thought about, guys, is maybe getting an oversized firing pin block, or firing pin stop, excuse me, where basically this radius right here, you can see where that's radiused. It's just completely squared off. What that does is it makes it harder for the weapon to cock, and that was actually John Moses Browning's original design, was to have the oversized firing pin block. But the thing was, the Army said that it was a little too hard to rack the slide and cock the weapon. So that's why they went with this feature right here. What that does, though, is it increases the dwell time on the weapon and kind of makes for maybe a softer recoil as well as more reliable feeding. But I don't think I would really perhaps notice. It's kind of a smaller detail. So there we have that. I think in a future video we'll go in detail about breaking down all these components here. But yeah, we'll definitely look forward to that in a future video. As far as taking all this stuff off here, we can see that it's definitely, I mean, if we had that disconnector, trigger disconnect off, this slide would just slide down like nothing. I mean, it's definitely just super smooth on there. So while it may be super loose, it's also it's broken in to be super smooth. So that's definitely a good thing. So let's go ahead and put this stuff all back. So yeah, I am definitely enjoying the Ruger SR 1911. I think it's totally a sweet gun, still a good buy. As far as upgrading this gun, I think the reason why I'm not going to upgrade it is just for that reason. I mean, the frame to slide fit is not super tight. So I feel like in the future, instead of upgrading this gun with some front strap checkering and some match barrels and all that stuff, I'd rather just take that money and put it towards a higher end 1911, since I know that I'm a big fan of the weapon system. So I'm basically just going to shoot this Ruger SR 1911 into the ground, and when it wears out, I'm going to get a nicer 1911. Let's go ahead and make sure that's down. Stick that in there, pull it back, lift it up and over to get rid of the idiot mark. You don't want the idiot mark on there. There we go. Ruger SR 1911. Also, lastly, we'll talk about the magazines it comes with. It comes with a 7-rounder and an 8-rounder, and these are actually good magazines. It seems to feed very reliably with these. It doesn't come with this drop plate on here. This drop plate came with a Kimber Kimpro mag. This is an 8-rounder, which I didn't realize it's actually the same size as a 7-rounder, which is unfortunate because that means they had to have a weaker spring in here to make it fit in the same size to get that extra round. Versus on the Ruger magazine that it comes with, it's a little bit bigger of a magazine, which means you get that full gauge spring that you have on the 7-rounder. So these magazines are good. You know, I haven't had too many problems with this Kim mag. It seems to feed pretty reliably. But as far as the life of the spring, is probably definitely going to go downhill as time goes on. So there we have it, guys. The Ruger SR 1911. 1911, I feel like, is totally the best buy on the market. I think some people, some places can find them for about $680, but other places are probably around $740, which is still a good deal, I feel like, for this weapon. So thanks for watching my channel, guys. Take care.